So 2006, I got my degree, and now I was a trained teacher. But the problem is, even in campus, they used to tell us there are no jobs. There are no jobs for teachers. You are going to suffer. And that is exactly what happened. I started looking for work. You could not join TSC, that is the government. And you know, for a trained teacher in Kenya, you want to join TSC for you to get a salary, or to have an assurance of a salary. And those days, the salary wasn't that good. So I started teaching in a private school somewhere in Kikuyu, Thogoto, Gekambura, exactly. That is a private school. I think I was getting 7,000. At no point did I get the entire amount. And I am not blaming the management. There was just no money. So my drinking continued in Gekambura, Thogoto. One or two of my colleagues were drinking. So it was just drinking. And because I had started burning bridges at home, and I feel like I was disappointed. I was disappointed, and I was a disappointment to them. You know, after college, you don't have a job. There are no prospects. I didn't have an uncle somewhere, a rich uncle somewhere. I just decided to hide away somewhere in Gekambura, where I was teaching. So I would get drunk and mess up. And I remember in 2006, my sister had even given me some money to buy her shares in the stock exchange. I went and sold those shares, and I drank the money, and I never told her. And I was just messy. Anytime I would come into contact with money, it was just a mess after the other. With the sex addiction now, and I'm somewhere in Kikuyu, Thogoto, and that is a place that is known for some weird behaviors. It got even worse. And sometimes I remember one time I was even I got terminated from the job because they thought I had a relationship with one of the students, but of course it wasn't the truth. I got drunk at one time, came to school high, and it was always a scandal after scandal. I got born again and again, and eventually I remember I moved from Gekambura. I came to Donholm, still as a high school teacher in a private school, and I would walk from Buruburu all the way to Donholm, and most of the times in the morning I would be high. I would have a hangover, but I used to do my job well. And even as I continued teaching, I started applying for jobs. And by 2008, yes, I remember, August, I got an invitation for a job at Safaricom. And we were so many, I think over 1,000, because I think the first interview was at KICC. And they trimmed the numbers, and all the interviews, I continued passing from one hurdle to the next, until now we were called to Safaricom House, Safaricom headquarters, where we did the final interviews. I got the job somewhere in October, just like that, by grace of God. And you know, in the interview, you're even being asked whether you have any health problems. Of course, I didn't want to tell them, oh yes, I drink, I have a problem. And I looked like a good guy, humble. I would tell them how good I am. But the moment the salary started coming, things got out of control. I started missing work. I started at one point. I remember I went to work drunk or very high, and I liked night shifts. So I was high. I was chatting with someone, a colleague, a lady, and I remember I sent an email. And in Kikuyu, I'll say it in Kikuyu because it was a joke. It's supposed to be a joke. And I said, Gatinaga vege. You know, it's supposed to be a nice thing. You are joking with somebody. And then instead of replying to her alone, I replied to the entire call center. And you know, now I didn't even realize because I was high. You know, the work I was doing, I was maybe returning calls to customers. And then the moment I realized, oh my God, I have sent the mail to everyone, that got me into trouble because, you know, trying to explain how, the I don't want to say it. It doesn't translate well. Actually, that's the same problem I had with my bosses at that time. They were asking me, "Can you tell us in English what that translates?" And I begged them, "Please don't let me do this. It will seem like an insult to you." And they insisted, "No, we are not kids. And so I told them it means the ass of a goat. And they were like, "What did you say? You called it, and you're saying it's a joke? You know?" And from that moment, I knew I was a marked person, and I just started I continued drinking, missing work, because anytime I would go to the workplace, I would feel like, I remember even after sending that email, I remember we were at a bar somewhere, and somebody came and said, "Hey, did you hear about that guy who sent that email and said Gatinaga Lege?" And I just felt like, oh God. And now the way the guy was putting was like, that guy has to be sacked. That's too much. He has to be sacked. And God, I said, so I continued drinking, and I had a girlfriend, and I would tell her I don't want a relationship. I'm not able to sustain one. But behind her back, I would be going to the brothels. I remember one time my brother came for me, my smaller brother, and my friend James came for me from a brothel after staying for 5 days. So the drinking, the salary was there, a good salary, big phones, benefits, and the sex now, the sex addiction, the alcohol, it was a mess. Every 3 days, I would go to hospital to lie that I'm not able to go to work. I had gastritis, and it was just a mess. I remember one time in Pipeline, I used to stay in Pipeline, and that time there was this sect, Mongeki sect, and I was in a Mabati bar somewhere, and I had slept overnight there. So at night, these Mogeki guys came, and surprisingly, there were 2 guys. I was sleeping, and there was a lady, and we were not doing anything, but at night I felt like something was happening. So I woke up, so the guys take the pump, the keg pump, the one that is used to pump keg, and then some beers. And then I thought I was maybe dreaming, so I went back to sleep. The next morning, when you sleep in a bar, they assume you are your customers. They know you. The next morning when the barmaid came, I had her screaming, "Oh my God, the pump, Bobo imeibiwa, Bobo neirwo, the pump has been stolen." And then I remembered, oh my God. And then these are the same Mogeki guys who used to collect taxes from every business, and they would even beat people. So I said, I won't say anything. And then the owner, Kama, came, and I really felt the urge. And then I was shaking, and I knew, God, I am dead. Because I thought if these guys heard that somebody had reported them, then they would kill us. And it was so bad, because around that time, the same Mogeki had killed almost 28 guys in my village. So I didn't know what to do. Okay, eventually I told Kama about it, and he reported them to the leaders. But I'm just saying, the things I was doing with that alcoholism, it was just too bad. It had gotten to a place where I was doing risky things, and I knew I would die at any time. Actually, the suicidal thoughts, they started way back. I really wanted to die. And even when Safaricom took me for counseling, I used to tell my counselor, I want to die because I have messed up everything in my life. And when 2011 came, I just stopped going to work. I had everything, a good job. I was even in school. I had gone back to school for a postgraduate diploma in mass communication at Kenya Institute of Mass Communication, and I had paid for 1 year over 100K. I had even gone for a project in Mombasa, so I was just remaining maybe a few months. I stopped going to school. That money I didn't even defer. That money I just lost that money. When you're in addiction, and even now looking back at what I went through, nothing else matters. I try telling parents, It's not like your son wants to just continue messing. Nothing else matters at that point, because this is no longer fun. This is not the experimentation I was having in 1999 and 2000. This was a disease. I had a job at Safaricom, a job that anyone would kill for, but I was, let me use, I urinated it because, I just felt like it wasn't good enough. Drinking was a better job. So I stopped drinking. I stopped going to work so as to drink. And just like that, I didn't have a job. And I started selling household stuff. And before I go there, the company looked for me. They looked for the next of kin, who is my sister, Angela. They looked for them. Everyone looked for me. I hid deeper into pipeline. I started selling my sofa. I sold my music system. I sold almost everything. And that's when my friend James again came to my rescue. He took me to Kariobangi, his place, and gave me a room. But by that time, I would shake. I had withdrawals. I would have hallucinations if I didn't drink. So in the morning, I had to go to the bar. And then James and his girlfriend introduced me to writing, online writing. And I started doing some writing, but I had to drink before I even started writing. And that's how I sustained my drinking from 2011 to 2012. Because of the drinking and now getting ill and now selling stuff, even James couldn't sustain me. And eventually, even the apartment where we were staying, the tenant said, this guy is coming at night. He's bringing in some people who don't look like they are good. Because there was a time my laptop, I came with a prostitute, and I think she gave me mchele, what you call mchele, these prescription drugs, and she spiked a drink we had in the house. So I was locked in. She stole everything, my laptop, my phone, my modem, everything. She even carried my suitcase with clothes. And so, and she locked me in. So in the morning, I had to call people to come and open for me. So considering what these things that were happening, the tenant said I couldn't stay there. So I started now living in Korogosho with friends. Korogosho is just next to Kariobangi South, and basically I didn't have anywhere to live. And I didn't want to go back to Shags. I remember one time I had to ask a watchman to open, I had to beg him to maybe open the garage for me to sleep under the lorry, a lorry that was being repaired. Another time I slept outside a friend's corridor or veranda because he didn't open for me because he had a girlfriend. Thinking of some of these things, I just wanted to die. My mother sent for me. She called James, and my younger brother came for me. I didn't have anything. I didn't have even clothes. I had sold everything. So they came for me from Machanga, then, and I was taken to Nyeri. That was 2012. And in Nyeri, my mother saw me. I remember she cried. My father didn't even want to talk to me because I think I was just a disappointment. And I don't blame him. Of course, now in the village, everyone could see that this is not the same guy. We heard he was at Safaricom. We heard he was doing good. And now they saw a guy who looked thin, frail. I was back in my mother's house. I was the one taking milk to the shopping center in the evening, being sent bread. The shame. And within a few months, I was back into drinking. And now I went to our hometown, Karatina, and the drinking got even worse. And then I discovered cheap prostitutes. Even with 20 shillings, you could get sex. again, my life started. I would work from a cyber and then just drink and never go home. And in that lifestyle, while still living in that lifestyle, I think I stumbled upon a newspaper, and the TSC, the Teachers Service Commission, was advertising for jobs, and that's how I applied. I went back home and told my parents, I want to talk to you, and I'm not asking for money. I just want to apply for this job. At that time, I didn't even have money for a full scap, but I would find money to drink. So I applied for the job. I was called for interviews. I went to 1 or 2 schools, and I got the third school. And that's how 2013 came and found me now as a high school teacher. And I had started seeing someone, and we were kind of in a relationship. So you see, when you are working for the government, you don't get your salary at once. You wait for around 3 months. So for me, when the money came, it was around 130,000 shillings. And I got anxious. I was in class invigilating an exam, but I couldn't even sit down. I felt like I had diarrhea. I had to go out, and I ran to the staff room and told the teacher, my colleague, I had to go somewhere. I got a border. I disappeared from school for 3 weeks. So problems started there. I started missing work. The principal would report me. I had issues. I would borrow money from students, and these are girls, and then during closing time I didn't have the money. Oh God. I would come to school with the same clothes that I had yesterday, even for the third day, because I would be drunk in the bars. Sometimes the students would find me drunk, falling down, shouting, and they would report back to school. And with all these problems, again, I had a wife now, and she was pregnant. So come 2014, I felt maybe my life wasn't worth living anymore. I remember it was around February. I just said, you know what, I'm done.